Who doesn't need a quick laugh to go along with some food for thought? Hello, I'm Dan Hill, the host of Scrambled Eggs, tips and tactics for tackling tough business problems. Today's guest is Christine Kane. She is the author of The Soul Sourced Entrepreneur, an unconventional success plan for the highly creative, secretly sensitive, and wildly ambitious. She's also the founder of UpLevel U, a multi-million dollar business coaching company. So, Christine, I've given you 5 terms and a diabolical definition for each for my new book, Blah, 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 A Snarky Guide to Office Lingo. There's a little truth in every joke. Of these 5 options, which one is your favorite? Please read it aloud and tell us why you chose
Okay, I'm going to go with the word monetize, and there are two angles. The reason it popped out to me was because when I was coaching a group of entrepreneurs, and I referred to another coach using the word monetize, like I was talking about something someone had said about monetizing. The whole room kind of shut down because I work with entrepreneurs who tend to start things from passion and they don't like that. Like they didn't even understand what the word meant. And so over my years, and that was many years ago, but over my years of coaching entrepreneurs, one of the things I speak to is that every business has 2 tracks. One is the strategy track, one is the soul track. And the soul track is all that great mindset stuff. And a lot of times people tend to lean one or the other. And I think monetize is one that kind of embodies both. And it can be used in a way that's very lame in that people overuse it and some people make it all about the money, and then some people on in the soul world, the passion world, they tend to ignore it and they don't want to monetize anything and they just want to avoid it. And so I love the word, and I also roll my eyes at the word because it's a little overused on some tracks, but it has to be a part of the service you're providing if you're going to have a business and if you're going to have a business that works. So that was my choice.
Sure. Well, Mark Cuban says profits create possibilities, and it's true. Yeah, it will not be viable if you do not have some profit. But on the other
Uh,
hand, I think you're really going to quench your passion if that's your only motive.
and I do think you can die a slow death of the soul if it's
Yes,
all about what you're doing. But I do often have to gently nudge my clients into recognizing that when we're scared to ask for money, there's this, I call it the sales threshold. We love to market and give our value and share all our things, but then when we ask for money, we start to feel like slimy and gross, and then we avoid it. And when people avoid it and they don't really step into it, they lose a lot of the lessons of valuing themselves and recognizing the
true,
value
true.
that they deliver. And then their clients don't get value either because they have not invested their energy, their money into their own results.
Okay, very true. So we've just covered monetize, which in the book is, along with scalability, entrepreneurs' other favorite word when playing Scrabble. Now let's turn to your book, The Soul Sourced Entrepreneur. What's a favorite term from that book, and what's its significance for you?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is a the when I sent my proposal off to the agent that I was pitching agents. One agent who I ended up working with, Scott Hoffman, came back and he's like, I love that. And it's something that has stayed in my mind, but it's called Alt 5 and it's ALT-5. And there's this whole section of the book is all about one of the ways that I think we entrepreneurs get tripped up the most, and that is how we interpret our circumstances, how we interpret what's going on. So it's one thing to get a number, but it's another to interpret what's going on with that number, what it's telling you about your business. And as entrepreneurs, we constantly are getting feedback. It's one of the great
Sure.
things about what we do. We get feedback all the time. And so Alt 5 is my way of coaching my clients into saying, what we tend to do with feedback that feels emotional or triggery or highly charged or even numbers that are lower is we tend to, especially passion based entrepreneurs, we tend to go into a real negative interpretation. Oh, it didn't work. The launch didn't work. Oh, my client rejected. Oh, whatever it might be. So, Alt 5 is a way of coming up with 5 alternate interpretations of what your feedback is telling you. And what that allows the entrepreneur to do is break out of old emotional patterns that drain their confidence levels, that drain their power, and it actually derails them more often than not. And what I find is that the problems in a business often come from how someone is framing and interpreting their feedback. So Alt 5 would be my favorite.
Okay, well, I do remember that wonderful line from Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan, where he sings, "We all have the same story to tell, but we tell it from a different point of view,
So true.
tangled up in blue."
Sing it,
Yes.
Bob. Yeah.
Well, he's a Minnesota boy like myself, so yes, I've listened to the record a few
I
times, can
used
we
to
say?
cover that tune.
Yeah, it's a great tune. Really a great tune. So implicit in what you just said, is there a solution? Is the Alt 5 the solution? Or do you want to add to that a bit as in terms of a tip or tactic for helping entrepreneurs?
Could I give the 5 different
Sure,
prompts? Would it
sure.
be a little longer than one tip, but I could just say, okay,
Yeah,
so what, okay, so the book is obviously big, so there's a lot more to it, but what the 5 different alternative
sure.
translations can be started with, like I always have people anchor to their intention first. Like, what is the intention of your business? If a key employee leaves, like maybe that means that that person wasn't going to be able to help you get to the number you wanted to reach, that sort of thing. So the first of the Alt 5 is, I wonder if it's possible that. So in other words, instead of going into your usual pattern, maybe you find, I wonder if it's possible that that employee, for instance, wasn't aligned with my new goal. The second one is, maybe I'm being called to, meaning maybe there's some expansion, some skill set, something that you're being called to learn as an entrepreneur. And then number 3 is, this could be expanding me by. Again, we
Okay,
dive into
sure,
skill
sure.
sets. So like, I try to teach my clients, don't think of the entrepreneurial path as bringing lessons to you. It's like, we're always expanding. We're building our character. We're becoming successful entrepreneurs along the way. How are you getting expanded? Number 4 is, an objective observer might see this situation and simply point out. And so this is where you step away from being you and you become a coach and you get objective about it. Even if it feels cliche, you find another alternate way of framing it. And then the last one, and this is a big one, if the emotional charge of this trigger were magically reduced by 78%, here are 5 possible action steps I could take. And that's designed to get people out of the emotion and take action from a more neutral place. That whole section of the book is really designed to keep you anchored to the neutral spot, which is where we really run our businesses from a different part of our brain.
Okay, wonderful stuff. Thank you so much, Christine. This is episode, excuse me, number 23 of Scrambled Eggs. I'm your host, Dan Hill, the author of Blah, 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 A Snarky Guide to Office Lingo.